am Molly St. Louis. I'm really happy to be here. I was a consultant with EM, and now I am the head of marketing for DealTail, which is a new marketing company.
Awesome. One of the reasons I want to interview you is that you talk about content as branded content. And I think a lot of people don't know what that term is or why the branded is in front of the content. Even content itself wasn't talked about that way. Even 5, 10 years ago, they didn't call it content. They called it different things. So for this audience, can you define what branded content is for you?
Sure. So when I break content down, like many people do, I break it down into earned, owned, and paid. And earned would be public relations. You know, you're pitching to the media, they love the story and they pick it up and you don't have to pay for it. And, you know, you're on CNBC and your mom is really proud of you. Or owned content would be like your blog, what you put out on your socials, you know, anything that you have control of, because often with, you know, PR, you don't really have control of the story. And then there's branded content, which is often paid content or content that goes syndicated on somebody else's site. So, you know, I think this is something that a lot of people in the Valley don't quite know yet, but you can work with Bloomberg or The Atlantic or Wall Street Journal and develop content with them under a paid agreement. And you're definitely driving the narrative, but then you're getting to tap into their creators and their writers and developing something that brings your message to a much wider audience. So for example, the company that I just worked on, we just did a documentary with The Atlantic called The New Rules of Sales. And that was specifically because that company was really well known in Silicon Valley, but wanted to tap into healthcare, medical device companies, big pharmaceutical companies, perhaps, professional services. So that's when you really want to reach that wide audience, is you tap into branded content.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And I think you're right. I think a lot of even our clients, they know the own part, the PR stuff that's been around forever. They are, in my opinion, a lot of them struggle with owned. You know, they're creating content in their blog. I think most clients and companies do that now, but the paid stuff is still a mystery. Some of them might be doing paid ads, which is different than branded content.
Right. Branded content is really thought leadership based. And I think where a lot of people make a mistake on thought leadership is by treating it like product marketing. You cannot mention your product in a way of like, well, just use my product and all your problems will go away. You really have to be creative about how you position your content. You want to show off your expertise with thought leadership, not your product, your expertise, your executive's expertise, or that type of thing. You sometimes people that are not from branded content or you know, I was head of communications before, so I did PR for many, many years. The struggle is everybody thinks of it as product marketing for the most part. I used to also be a writer for Inc. and Adweek and the Huffington Post and Business News Daily. And so I got the other side of that, where marketers would pitch a story to me and it would be very vague, or it wouldn't have a point of view. It would just say, do you want to meet my CEO? And I had 100 of those emails a week. And I was like, no, you know, because it's not a story. It's not piquing my interest. I want to know that you have data that says, you know, that that the metaverse is how we're all going to market it in 3 years. You know, I want to know what you're going to say. So a lot of it is really, really story focused. So when you take that entertainment or journalistic approach to content, branded content or earned media, you do so much better.
Yeah, that's great. What are the main challenges you see right now with branded content, with either efforts you've had at Clary or clients you've had in the past or whatnot?
Well, first of all, so okay, problems that I see with branded content, like in terms of creating it, I'll start there first with marketers. Um, if you are creating a piece of branded content for, say, the Wall Street Journal, it has to be very, very specifically written in the tone of Wall Street Journal. Um, you know, I had a situation once where Wall Street Journal wrote something, and then the client was like, "No, I just rewrote it, and here, have them publish this."
Right.
And I had to say, No, they're not going to do that because it doesn't sound like their brand. Um, it's their brand isn't punchy; it's journalistic, and the client felt like the message got watered down because we weren't basically like pushing the
Right.
product.
Right.
But the Wall Street Journal isn't going to do that. They need to create a balanced story, and whether that is an earned media piece or a paid media piece, they need to sound similar. So
Yep.
that's one problem, the challenge that a lot of folks go through is that it's not just about being a good writer, it's about writing for that platform.
Mhm.
Um, and then in terms of it being effective in that market, um, I think it's important to really lean on um, these platforms and really push them to understand their audience before you even engage with them. Do they actually have your audience? Like, if your audience is, you know, chief marketing officers in the pharmaceutical space,
Mhm.
do those you have to do a lot of investigating to understand, do they actually have that audience on say Bloomberg? Push them. You need to
Yeah.
know that first, because they're the ones that are ultimately going to help you craft that story for that broader audience. So that if you can get those two things right, I think you stand pretty good chance of success for your campaign.
And have there been challenges in terms of convincing maybe management of doing some of these things, or has it been a process to get them comfortable with it? Like, tell me a little bit more about the challenges you might have faced during the process.
Yeah, I think that the challenge, well, when you're doing earned media, I've definitely had executives get upset if the story wasn't exactly what they wanted, or their competitors were mentioned also
Sure.
in it. Um, and it's definitely not something you can control. Sometimes in earned media, uh, the reporter might have gone and found information that you didn't give them, but it's public knowledge that maybe the CEO doesn't want, promoted,
Mhm.
but it's out there, so they're able to put that in. They're playing by the rules by doing that, and we can't tell them to take it out.
Right.
With earned media, you do get to see it before it goes out. It's going to be strictly thought leadership, and it might talk about your product. It might, uh, out of a whole 5-minute documentary, it might have one line about your product. And sometimes that's troubling to executives who really want the product pushed, but you kind of have to take them along for the journey and say that this is a very top of funnel
Mhm.
activity. The goal of this is to get people to become familiar with your brand. It's really branding.
Yep.
And then there are ways in which you can turn them into leads. One of the things that uh, we did last year with a certain campaign is there was a video campaign that we had on NASDAQ that was publicly available, but we put them on LinkedIn ads, gated LinkedIn ads where people have to autofill. We got a ton of really high level leads because these were VP and above. And
Yep.
so I would say that you can get creative with how you put it out there and really make social media your friend, because a lot of people don't know what is, I will say this as a public service announcement to everybody, but also marketers, a lot of people don't know what is paid and what is earned.
Mhm.
That bothers me in the fact that the general public don't know what to believe in terms of the news, and they might see something and say, well, it was in Forbes, so it's real.
Right.
Then
Right.
you look and say that's on the Forbes Ownership Council, and that's a CEO of a tech company who has a certain perspective. It's not a journalist.
Mhm.
You have to know that. How it works for marketers is that if you happen to do a paid opportunity and say you did a paid a speaking engagement that you paid for at Bloomberg, you could clip that and say that it was at Bloomberg, and people aren't going to know that it's not earned.
Yeah.
And you're not lying by saying that it was it was at Bloomberg. So it's a tricky thing. I will say that for anything that's branded content or paid content, they do have to put that it is part of a paid
Yeah.
service. So that is another thing that sometimes I think executives have had an issue with at first, because they thought, well, who's going to read this if it's paid? Well, some of the biggest brands, Amazon, Salesforce, they all do branded content, huge paid content campaigns.
Yeah.
And people are used to it. So rant over. Over.
Yeah. 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 And my next question is not going to be something that's the same across every client or company. But when you think about the balance between earned media and owned media and branded content, like, are there any guidelines you have in terms of, marketers thinking about what the right mix is between the three?
Definitely. Well, I'll say that earned media is getting harder and harder because media companies are now competing with tech companies that have really big blog followings, and they need to know how to make money. So if you are happen to be pitching these big media entities and you're not getting anything, you're not alone. And sometimes it's not because you don't have a good story. There is just so many people with a publicist. But sometimes by doing the paid media, that begets earned media.
Sure.
And so sometimes it is playing those two things with one another. Capturing those, I would say that a creative way of doing that too is just capturing all of those in videos, documentary style videos, where it also displays your press, what they said about you, and then using that in your owned media. But I would say that on a blog, my perspective is that it should be probably 75% thought leadership content that's shareable, that is going to build trust with the audience, and that branded content is an extension of that, and then earned media is an extension of that.
Okay, great.
It all comes out of your own.
It emanates from that central place.
Yeah.
So,
exactly.
which leads me well into the next question, where I have noticed some places don't feel like they have real thought leaders, or they have thought leaders who are maybe not trained in capturing their thoughts into something that can be used in marketing. Or what advice do you have for consultants, for clients who might be not feeling like they have great thought leadership because they're maybe not the right people, or they have the right people who are not prepared for that?
If you are a company that doesn't have good thought leadership, hire journalists as in your branded content, because they will understand how to pull a story out of people. because that is what you are trained to do. And if you are a marketer that is looking to be better at thought leadership, I would say get a mentor that is a journalist, because it is just different. I think it's really hard for executives to stand up there and say, this is what I believe, because it's kind of vulnerable. You also, there's a lot of people that are afraid, well, what if people disagree with me? What if people don't like what I'm saying? What if they think it's stupid? That kind of thing. You have to be loud and proud with thought leadership, because otherwise nobody is going to notice it. Yeah. Nobody is, it goes back to a much bigger issue, I think. When you're branding a company, you really have to define, what is it that you believe as a company? What causes are you going to stand behind? Who are you as an executive? Who are you as a team? Who are you as a company? And then, of course, who are you as a brand? So then you're going to know how to respond thought leadership wise to things that are happening in the market. Are you the kind of company that's going to stand up for a cause? People want you to. Yeah. And so if you don't always have something to say in terms of the business, make it about how you run the company. I guess this is also another thing that's worth saying is it's a conversation that I've had with CEOs over and over and over again, which is they go, I want to write a blog about, and then they'll name something that is really, really, really obscure, and I want it to go viral, and I just want it to be for executives of huge companies. And then I usually have to say something like, it will not go viral because your audience is way too small and that subject is not that relatable. Mm-hmm. But if you did it about leadership, about a certain aspect of leadership, and you brought in the audience, that has the potential to reach more people. But I think sometimes subjects are really important to an individual and the people that they're around, and then they'll be like viral. And in the last company that I was in, I've had two things go viral, and then one of the brother writers, who was a former Wall Street Journal writer, also did. Hers was about chocolate chip cookies, and mine was about cyberbullying. And so it's like, everybody wants a chocolate chip cookie recipe, but not everybody wants to talk about data lakes. Right. Maybe they do. I don't know. Data lakes are cool, but to answer your question in terms of thought leadership, you have to get so creative, and you have to take a stand, and you have to be willing for people to disagree with you. And if they do, that is totally okay.
Yeah. And that's a new landscape for sure. My next question is going to seem a little bit, I don't know, maybe junior, but maybe not. I feel like a lot of clients and companies are behind the curve on video. They're comfortable with the written word. They're comfortable with creating content that has images and graphs and charts, but not video. And I, in particular, consume so much video and believe it is just, you have to do video. What guidance do you have in terms of clients that are hesitant to create video, or maybe what tips do you have for them to get into doing video more?
First, I'm going to be broad, and then I'm going to be really tactical with this question, because video is, I think, one of the most powerful marketing assets that you can have. But not all video is created equal. Again, the thought leadership has to be on point, and I would encourage anybody that is creating video to look at popular Netflix shows and pay attention to the format. A lot of the time, and I'm not saying that it can't be successful doing it this way, but I think if you're brand new at it, format is going to help you a lot. Sometimes when people are new at it, they go in and they have about a 10-minute conversation on the video about, like, who are you and what's your company doing? let's assume that everybody knows that, because if I'm tuning in, I probably care who you are, probably.
Yeah.
If I don't care about who you are, or I don't know you, it's about the subject. So I would say, if you look at National Geographic shows like Brain Games or The Mind Explained on Netflix, there's something in the beginning that's an intro that piques your curiosity. Maybe it's like, why do you dream about your teeth falling out? Because everybody said that happened, and then, it builds from there. You have the next part where there's an expert talking about it. Then there's like an animated part of it where, it goes into the science detail of it. But it's constantly keeping you engaged and watching that video piece instead of, our goldfish mentality of like, I gotta turn the channel. So if you're starting out, I would say get crazy with it. And I think you know that Netflix is popular. You know that that's how people are used to consuming. Take all of that and consolidate it down. Use animation. The other thing that's really tactical is faces perform a lot better on social. So if you have an intro that's animated that looks cool, I'm sure that you probably think that that's going to look better than a Zoom video. From personal research, start with a face, some kind of I would say personally mine would perform like maybe 6 or 7 times better when you put a face first. People are scrolling through, etc. That use video as sort of like the anchor point. And a lot of content marketers say this thing about like carve the turkey. So if you did a huge interview with somebody, like it's 30 minutes long, transcribe it. That could be also 5 blogs that you pass off to different people to write as that person. And then you have not only a video, you also have 5 blogs. You could also turn a video into a podcast and try it that way. I know when I've marketed to sellers, they said, whoa, I'm tired of looking at a screen. I would rather listen to this. You could give them that as an option.
Yeah.
But also, don't think that just because you make a video, that even if it's great, that people are going to watch it. You need to boost the posts.
Yep.
And growth marketing campaigns are putting it in your newsletter, putting it in your customer emails, putting it obviously on social media several times. And if you can, try to get people in your video that have high social followings or at a company that everybody knows, because then you could get that company to do dual marketing with you. And so that I think is why people sometimes get frustrated with video, is that it's a lot of work. And if it doesn't, if you're not able to invest the time into making sure that it gets seen, or the money into getting seen, you might go, whoa, that was a lot of work for not a lot. But if you really are efficient about it, it can pay off. Also, if you are pitching people to the news, they always ask for video. So if you're saying, I want to pitch this expert for this story, and they want video. So you can also work with other PR firms. If you're making that expert look really, really good, you can get some pretty awesome people on your show, because there's something in it for them.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That was a long-winded answer, and I don't know that it answered everything, but.
No, that's a great answer. That's a great answer. I love the high level, and some more smaller tactical things that people can draw from. And if I've learned anything about video, is that there's so many amazing experts to help you with all different types of video and aspects. We've had the great luck of being introduced to a bunch of people who work on video. They come from all different aspects, some from the TV world, some from former movie production people, just all sorts of super talented folks. So I
I
know we're all
love,
I know we're all tired of staring at screens, but that's what the future holds anyways. It's like we're all going to be staring a lot at screens. So better make what you're staring at interesting.
absolutely. And I love the video that's coming out of you guys. It's awesome.
Good.
I also, just one little thing that I have found through doing it, and then also got confirmed by some other marketers. I think they were at Shopify, which is that Frankenstein content is performing the best right now. Frankenstein meaning it's a Zoom video, but there's animations around it. It's made
Ah,
pretty. It's seen as more authentic than, I think when you have a video background, you go, I want to shoot, I want 8K footage and all of these things. But really, what sales teams are saying, and also what people online are saying, is that they want to hear the ums. They want to see that that's just a person in their house,
mhm.
because it's more authentic and they believe it more.
And let me understand. You said the animated content are there layers of visuals happening behind people?
Yeah. So almost, if you look at popular news shows, you'll see that, like,
Ah,
if there's a two shot of everybody, you and me, there's usually a very slow animated background that's very, just, it's got some light movement to it, to where it's
hmm,
not distracting, but it makes the piece look a little polished, like not just like it's a Zoom video. Um, Maybe there's animations or graphics that go over the people talking at the time. Maybe there's data graphics and things, but that we're on Zoom and
yes,
somebody thoughtfully took a real conversation and they put some art around it and
sure.
made it intentional.
Yeah, that's all. That's great. I didn't know it's called Frankenstein content. So
I
that's
think that's what they people have given it, Frankenstein or hybrid content. I like Frankenstein because it's just really visual.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, awesome. So I don't want to take too much of your time, but I have one last question, which is, what are you most excited about in marketing or your new position in the next, let's say, 6 months? What are you most excited about?
I'm excited for in the new position that I actually get to work with marketers. I haven't marketed to marketers in a long time, and I love marketers because I think they're creative and analytical, and they've got just that cool dynamic way of thinking.
Yeah,
So I'm really excited about that. And also just to really help people tie their marketing efforts to revenue, which is what DealTail does. Is it basically tells you how much money that blog you made generated from the deals that were won, through different data models and attribution of things. Um, what I'm excited about marketing, the metaverse.
mhm,
I'm really looking into that kind of content, experiential marketing, bringing people into
yeah,
environments. That's the thing that I am dying to get into.
yeah, awesome. That's great, and I'm excited for you. And thank you for taking the time. And hopefully we'll connect soon.
Thank you so much, Ken. It's always good to see you.